I just watched Heat, and I think I've discovered something really interesting about it. Now, I've seen Heat like 6 or 7 times, and the cinematography is great, the story is great, there's fantastic action, it's intense, the drama. But this time, for some reason, something really hit me, and it's the relationship that you see between the men and the passion they have for their work and the drive they have to achieve these things, and how there's like sort of an imbalance, or a big imbalance, between that and their personal lives, their relationships, their marriages. Now, I don't know if Michael Mann intended this, if this was a study about men and the consequences of striving so hard to go after whatever it is they're passionate about. But I watched an hour-long conversation that was hosted by Christopher Nolan on the 20th anniversary in 2015. And it was Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, Michael Mann was there, Val Kilmer, some of the other actors, editors, and they didn't mention anything about what I'm talking about. But I think it's there, and I actually found a really interesting article online, and I want to read you a couple of clips because I think they're really interesting. You're going to like this. The article's on movieweb.com, and I'll put a link below, by Gabrielle Mowry. The title is Why Heat May Be the Best Movie About Men and Criminals. Here's a quote. Though Heat has many iconic action sequences, at the core of the film is an iconic scene where Hannah and Macaulay, that's De Niro and Pacino, talk over coffee in a Beverly Hills restaurant. In their conversation, one topic that comes up is family. Quote, if you're on me and you got to move when I move, how do you expect to keep a marriage? Close quote. That's what De Niro says to Pacino. This question, made by Neil to Vincent, is at the center of Mann's films. Men's complicated task of balancing work and family. I'm not sure why, but it really resonated with me this time. I think, actually, I do know why, because I've had those things come up in my own relationships about the amount of time that I spend striving to make work and the things that I love to do, and how that conflicts with my personal life and the relationships that I have, and it really resonated with me this time. And I wonder if this is something that a lot of men go through, or if it's just men who have this like tunnel vision ability, like yours truly, to sort of just keep going with what they're doing, and at the expense of what's happening around them. Even if you can see everything's crumbling, you just keep going. And this doesn't change my opinion of the movie. I love the movie for what it is. It's just, you turn it on, it's an action film, there's a lot of great scenes and shootouts, and it's fun, and it's intense. But when you sort of get into the depths of the characters and the story, even though they didn't talk about this at the 20-year reunion with Christopher Nolan, I do feel like it's there. And clearly, when I found this article, it made me feel like, well, okay, well, I'm not the only one who sees this. And maybe it's obvious, but to me, it felt really reassuring to know that somebody else out there took it the same way. Quote, don't let yourself get attached to anything you are not willing to walk out on in 30 seconds flat if you feel the heat around the corner. This creed by which the master thief lives by exemplifies the crucial notion of workaholic masculinity Mann has so brilliantly crafted for the past decades. That's another quote from Gabrielle's article. Here's one more. Through it all, they, Pacino and De Niro's characters, are both lonely. Their work might be the cause of it, but they are not keen on changing. They are who they are. They both walk away from attachment because it would make them vulnerable, thus unfit for the pursuit of their obsessions which require their full dedication. This being said unearths another dimension to their encounter. They feel seen in the other's presence. So it's a pretty interesting scene that he gets pulled over, De Niro, and Pacino, and they know who each other are or is, and they go to coffee because nobody else understands. That's a big thing, I think, for I'll just say men. I don't know. We're using men in this example, in this video, in this movie, so just roll with it. I'm sure it happens to everyone, but to feel seen in this particular way, that, you know, you might have these huge things in life. Relationships are huge things, you know, but when you have this work that drives you to achieve or to create or whatever it is that you're trying to do, it's almost like you can see the tension, but you understand a little bit what they're going through. At least I did anyway. I get it. Like, they're trying to make a living and make money, De Niro and his gang, Sizemore and Kilmer, and Pacino's trying to stop them. The irony, I think, is that Pacino's trying to stop them so that he can prevent more people from dying so that they can live happy lives, whatever it is that they're doing. I'm not going to put words in his mouth and say that it's to enjoy their family or their spouse or their loved ones or whatever. It's just life in general, I think. But the irony is that he's sacrificing that in his own life to give that to others. I just want to mention one more thing because I think it's really important. And I wish I could have been on that panel because I would have asked him the things that I'm already talking to you about, but I would have asked one more thing. There's this scene with the cook in the diner, and he was in prison with De Niro, and apparently they were friendly or comrades or whatever, and, you know, he's out of prison, so he's working this terrible job, you know, cooking food all day long. He's got a manager treating him terribly, and he knows that he has to take it because if he doesn't, you know, his parole officer or whatever will send him back to jail if he misbehaves or he's late or if he gets fired or whatever. In the scene where Danny Trejo betrays the group, Sizemore, Kilmer, and De Niro, they need a driver for this bank robbery. So they see him, they just happen to be in this diner, and they go up to him and say, "Hey, we need a driver, are you in?" And just that moment of when the guy quits, almost without hesitation, it gives even a little more weight to this idea of not just men sacrificing stability or a relationship or going about things what quote unquote are what you're supposed to do, but it's about meaning and importance and having some sort of direction or just living life. I'm not saying that robbing banks is a good way to spend your time or to live your life. I mean, there are other ways to be adventurous. But to him, that's all he knows. And for him to sit there and think, I can either stay at this job where this guy's yelling at me to cook eggs faster and I'm getting paid nothing probably, and I'm supposed to like eke my way and inch my way to like what am I doing? Or I can go with this guy and rob a bank. Now he ends up getting killed, and you can say, well, that's the right decision, but it was a slow death the other way. So I feel like there's an interesting connection that plays into this idea of you know, the balance or the disparity or the loneliness or the lack of feeling important or having meaning. And that's what causes sort of the imbalance between the work that Pacino and De Niro and Kilmer like go after and watching their wives and families sort of, you know, progress without them, so to speak. That meaning is also in there too, that it has to feel like it's something meaningful that you're doing. And I think that Cook is a good example of that. Let me know what you think. I want to know if you've seen this recently, because Heat has not been on any major streaming services. I say major because I think it's on Showtime or Starz, but it's on Netflix now, and it just came on. I think a lot of people are going to be watching it and revisiting it. It's a classic film. I mean, 10 out of 10 stars. There's no flaws in my opinion. I love it. I'm going to watch it again tonight. And I just want to know what you think about this idea about this movie being what it is, a great movie, but also is there something to what I'm saying about this idea of men and the sort of the battles that they go through. I say men, but I'm sure there's a lot of men who don't go through that, but maybe the men who are trying to achieve something or are driven or in a particular way, or maybe have tendencies, I don't know what percentage, that's kind of why I want to hear what you have to say, because I want to know what everyone is thinking out there, if this is something that you can relate to, or if you think this is kind of a smaller niche crowd. I get the feeling no, but we're going to find out. Don't let yourself get attached to anything you're not willing to walk out on in 30 seconds flat if you feel the heat around the corner.